Welcome back, everybody, to 31 1980s horror movies for Halloween, where I'm counting down my favorite horror movies from the 1980s. So, we have our first Italian horror movie on this list today. You're going to see quite a few Italian horror movies on this list because I'm an Italian horror fan. And, today we have a very important movie to me, because it was the first Italian horror movie I ever saw. And this is the movie that made me an Italian horror fan. And that is Dario Argento's Opera. Now, when it comes to Italian horror directors, I'm a bigger fan of Lucio Fulci, but Dario Argento was the guy who got me into horror. First Italian horror movie I ever saw was Opera, second was Suspiria, and then I went to Zombie and the Beyond, and we went on from there. But yes, Opera is the movie that started me on my Italian horror journey. This was the one that knocked House on the Edge of the Park off the list. I think House on the Edge of the Park is a great, disturbing Italian horror movie by Ruggero Deodato, but thinking about it, I had to put Opera on the list because, again, this was my first Italian horror movie. And the first thing we have to mention about Opera is how gorgeous it looks. Italian horror movies in general look very, very pretty, and Argento, he made some gorgeous looking movies. Opera, of course, is no exception. We're following this understudy who, due to an injury, has to become the lead in this opera performance of Macbeth. Now, when she becomes the lead in the play, or the opera, she kicks ass. I mean, she does a fantastic job in this movie. I know it's dubbing and stuff like that, but the opera scenes are beautiful looking. I'm not even a huge fan of opera, but the singing in this is great. But the thing is, she has someone who is obsessed with her, and he starts to kill all these people around her. But the killer has this obsession with making her watch. And the way he makes her watch is by tying her up and taping needles below her eyes, so that if she blinks, she will tear her eyes apart with these needles.
Take a good look. If you try to close your eyes, you'll tear them apart. So you'll just have to watch everything.
It's such a great but disturbing image, having needles taped below someone's eyes so they cannot blink. And this movie has long stretches where this woman has to watch, people get killed, and she has these needles under her eyes, and it makes your eyelids hurt because you're trying to keep them open for as long as she's keeping them open. And there are moments where you see trickles of blood dripping down her eyes because, her eyelids are quivering, and those needles are, scraping against her eyelids. Of course, the needles are not the only thing that make this movie great. It's just the image that sticks out. There are some great kills in this movie. Dario Argento always has really good kills in his Giallo movies, and that's what this is. It's a Giallo movie that came out in 1987. One of the things I love about opera is the majority of the music is classical music, but then there are moments during the kill scenes where it starts playing hard rock and roll music, and it's such a contrast to the music in the rest of the movie that it gets your adrenaline pumping during these death scenes. And the camera work is also great in this movie. Dario Argento films have amazing camera work, and this has some of my favorite camera work, some of my favorite editing too. There's this great scene where someone gets shot through a peephole, And the way the scene is handled is just so good.
I want to see your face again!
The ending is a little bizarre, but I really don't care because the ending in most Argento movies is bizarre. If the ending is bizarre, that just means I'm watching an Argento movie. A lot of Lucio Fulci movies and Argento movies have weird endings, but that's because all these movies have like a dream-like atmosphere. It's less about getting you to... It's less about telling you a coherent story and more about getting you to experience a nightmare. Opera is a slightly more straightforward movie, but like I said, it gets odd in the final act, and I kind of like it. It just adds an extra layer to the movie.
I wanted to escape altogether, because I'm different. I don't even vaguely resemble others, any of them.
A lot of Italian horror movies have over-the-top performances, but in opera it works because we're following people who are doing an opera. We're following people who are doing theatrical stuff, and theater people can be a little more over-the-top than regular people. So the over-the-top performances in this movie fit with the opera theme of the movie.
I mean it, Betty. You were just fantastic. You were great. Oh, I just love Verdi's music. I really do. Oh, God, you were wonderful. Just wonderful. Just that damn director.
So yeah, Opera is just a very good, well-done Giallo movie with fantastic imagery. Again, those needles below the eye are the thing that's going to stick with you in this movie. You're gonna need to blink a lot while watching those scenes. You're gonna try not to, just because the way the scene is done, you're gonna try not to blink, but you're not going to be able to help it. You're going to need to blink while watching those scenes. But yeah, Opera is a fantastic Giallo movie. It's the first Italian horror movie we're talking about this year. It's just really good stuff. I love Opera, and Opera will always have a special place in my heart because it was my first Italian horror movie.